Hello people, I've discovered something I want to do today, and that's maybe something you realized already. If you saw the previous videos, right now the frogs will jump away when you get near or when you touch them with your hand. But, like any self-respecting frog, they should actually start jumping when anything touches them. Which in this case they only seem to do. Let me see if I can fix that again. Because I don't think they react to general... No, see, this one doesn't react to general collision colliders entering them. Only when my hand gets close or when I get close, but you want them to jump no matter which collider enters the trigger, really. Let me investigate some more. See? There's colliders on this stick, obviously, because it can't reach the ground. I want the little beasts to jump. When I do this, or when something like this happens, they should just jump, come on. So, I want to fix that. And there's another thing I want to fix today. I don't know if that's a thing we'll do in this video, so I'll explain that when we reach that point in the process. Right now, let's get to work. So, let's pick out our favorite frog here, which is the original source frog. This one. Let's see. How did I do this again? So the frog reacts to the presence of the player with this big trigger here, which works okay. It has a certain chance to jump as long as we are inside the trigger. And this one here reacts to objects tagged with player hand here, which is good as long as you're reaching for them with a player hand. For this to work with any object, I want this trigger script to react to any collider entering that. But I will need to fix this trigger script in a way that it doesn't mess up the rest of my trigger world's triggers that are already inside. So I'm not yet entirely sure. Hey, can't I? They should be good size. Do let me know, by the way, if text should be bigger or smaller, or if I'm doing something that makes it hard to understand. Besides the obvious, like me thinking a lot and falling silent a lot, I can't really do anything about that. Well, I could edit the videos more vigorously, but that also would mean that it's gonna be a lot more work if I want to remove all my pauses. So, what I was thinking, let me check my levels. Do I have levels? Yes. What I was thinking is to just add a public bool here that is called any object, and for just to make sure that it works in the rest of my world, I will default it to false extra double plus here. I have the policy to name all my booleans with like a verb. So any object is not the right one. What should we call it? Trigger by anything. Should be good. Now, there's one thing that we have I explained in a previous video, but this trigger script has a force check at start. Let me see if I can show you. Maybe it's interesting. Even if it's just to remind myself of how I put this together. Wait a moment. There is like an onStart event here. Okay, we run a delayed start. When do we run this? We run a delayed start whenever we get enabled. So that also happens on game start. In that delayed start, we wait for a few frames and then check if the targeted trigger is already inside of us. Because that, if the game starts, that sometimes doesn't generate a on trigger enter event. So this bit, that is to say, this bit, and that is to say, this bit runs to see if the trigger is already inside of us, and that can only work with specific objects. So if we're on trigger by anything, we should actually not run the check at start. And not trigger by anything. Okay. So now we should only have to change the onTrigger enter script to check if the other collider might be anything. If target, oh, this is a bit messy logic. So if we are actually targeting something, but the other thing is not a target, not our specific target here, we return, which is good. Else, if tag is not equal to empty string and the other does not have that tag, then we return. And I think there is a place where we set that tag. Yeah, it's over here. If we are checking something at start, then we're finding the first object with a certain tag. I'm making this a little more difficult than it should be, but I want to prevent my script from breaking the whole game. So I should provide for logic cases that cover all these things. So I'm afraid I have to do this. Bear with me. Let me think. If we're not pointing at a specific target, but we are doing check at start, then the target should be the first object it finds that has this tag. To prevent this from messing up with the trigger by anything, I'm just gonna run here. Let me double check when this coroutine is started up. Yeah, that should be good. So if trigger by anything, then we'll try to override everything by saying, let's do it like this: target equals null, tag equals empty string. Oh, sorry. That should cover the cases that we inadvertently specified a target or a tag when having this active. we will make a note here, I guess, a tool tip that says like if on all below specify the if on both target and tag will be ignored. And because in the where is it on trigger enter script we check if target is null, is not equal to null, and only then check for a target, else if tag is not equal to null, and only then check for the tag. These two won't trigger, and this will trigger, should trigger, whenever anything enters our trigger. So this should actually be everything we need to do. To make this easily testable, I'm going to adjust, well, actually even disable the presence trigger. Trigger by anything. Tooltip shows up. Yes. And the trigger by hand I will turn into a trigger. Oh, why is my tablet acting strange again? Trigger by collision. We shall turn this on, and now they should only jump if they collide with anything, but not when I get close. So let's test that out in VR. Oh, I already heard them jumping, which is weird, but that's probably perhapsly because they were triggered by the floor. Let's see. Wait, this works excellently. Me likey. But I should really prevent them from being triggered at start as they do. Let me see if this works. Yes, cool. Bloop. Okay, let's see what happens if I put the stick over here. Move away. Come back. Okay, they don't register by spawning that there's a trigger in their way. But this is a good thing, I think, so they can be inside a trigger when they spawn. Now I'm just really interested to discover why they started jumping in the first place when I started up, because they don't trigger their jump when they respawn, but it seems they do trigger their jump when the game starts. Okay. One more thing I should really try is that if I reach for them by hand, yeah, they still jump. If I reach for them by solid hand, they still jump. Good. So let me set up a non-VR investigation here. Actually, it might just be that the stick here is dropping down on them when game starts. So, let's see. There's one jump I heard. I don't know which one that was. Get a clearer picture. Okay, let's try again. Yeah, I think it's just the various dynamic objects here settling before at the start of the level or the game, the scene. Let's trigger the triggers. See if I can pause at an opportune moment. Yeah, this is a bit of a chaotic display. Actually, it's kind of nice like this. Let's step into. So there's a object settling here, and there's a frog over here. So I assume that might actually trigger. Yeah, see? It's hard to see, but there's a frog jumping over here because the bottle here is settling into place. I'm just frame stepping through everything. There he goes. Now we start to fade in and the guy has already jumped. Cool. Let's see, can I start in paused mode? Should be possible, right? Okay, another test. What's that red line? Not sure. I think, yeah, it's the same frog, the one that starts over here. And I guess the fact that there's always a frog here is because I'm using the default random spawning without any... Oh no, I don't. Sorry, I was thinking maybe because they all start at frame 0 in their spawn, that random numbers will always be the same, but still, I assume it could be, yeah, there, see, there's a frog here and a frog here. That's jumping because the stick entered their triggers. Okay, cool. Now, this is quite easily fixed. Hello? Yes, thank you. Because we can simply fix that by not spawning in the frogs at start. Which we shouldn't have to do, because we already are... Let me see... We're already spawning them in if we approach, and in the final scene we will, if all's well, never enter this scene while being in this trigger here. If we do, the frogs will simply not be there until we leave and then go back again. So that should actually be a workable situation. So that is a simple fix. Frog manager, awake, start, clean spawn frogs, go away. And then all the objects have a chance to settle into their dynamic resting state before the player ever enters the region. So that's one thing fixed. Frogs now reacts to anything entering their trigger. I will turn back on the trigger by presence. Okay. Another thing I wanted to do to make it all somewhat more naturalistic, so to say, is to increase the population when we are away for a longer time. If you get what I mean. That would mean that in my frog manager, I can turn the frog count into a max frog count of 10. And I will have a new parameter. Let's see, I wanna fill in how many frogs per second will spawn, or how many minutes per frog it will take. Let's do a float anyway. Let's do just spawns per second. Nah, let's not do that, because that will mean that we need very low values like 0.01. So if we say frogs per minute, well, let's go for 10 frogs per minute. So within a minute, all the frogs will return, and every 6 seconds there should be a new frog. Now I'm setting the states of this spawning trigger by this trigger here. Hello, let me. Oh, we're compiling. Sorry. This box trigger here. So the new situation should be when we leave the area, we remember the time that we left, and when we return, we will calculate how many frogs should be there to spawn. That's all that we need to do. A different method would obviously be that we spawn them in as long as the player is away one by one, but really that just eats resources. We can simply measure the time the player has been away and spawn in as many frogs as that being away would require. So when we are leaving the trigger, we call on frogs manager clear, which isn't exactly. I'm thinking now that when we move away, it could be that we leave a few frogs behind. Say we enter, we see 10 frogs, 3 jump into the water, 7 remain. We move away, those 7 should they stay? Is the question. Or should I just clear them out and when I return spawn in at least 7 and as many more as time allows? I think that's nicer. Then we can imagine that the frogs have moved about, even in the few seconds that we have been away. I'm complicating matters here, just to see if I can accommodate for situations I'm imagining that might not ever occur. Well, I hope this explanation is any bit clear. I'm just thinking out loud. Let's see what we can do. So the clear command right now is this one here. It just clears them. Maybe we should define another function for this. Public void. Yeah, let's do a start respawning. Reswapping. Beautiful. Spawning. And the other function we're using is clean spawn frogs. Start respawning. No, let's call that differently. So the player leaves the area, so the frogs dare to climb out of the water again. Let's do start reappearing, and that just means that the counter can increase, and we shall remember float time player left. That's the time that the player left. So time player left equals time dot time. And when we have another spawn function in here, which we call public void spawn additional frogs. And this is the version of the spawning function that is based on time. Okay, so we know the duration equals time minus time player left int frogs to add. I'm just typing out my functions here, my calculations here in verbose mode, so to say, to make it easier to think about it. Frogs to add is like the duration divided by the spawns per minute, but that should go times 60 because that's per minute. This is also a good idea to always, if you use units, just put the units into your parameter name, so you never forget that you need to increase things like here when you're actually calculating things in seconds. Now, I'm a sucker for always getting stuff like this wrong. So I have a duration, which is a time. I have a spawns per minute, which is a number per time. This should be, I think, something like this more like. And we cast that to an integer like this. Frogs to add. Frogs to add should now be like clamped like, oh, I always forget how the clamp, yeah, you have to fill in the value first and then the min and max. The value is frogs to add. Let's say we always minimally spawn one frog, no matter how long we're away. Is that good? Yeah, that should be nice. But we never spawn more than the max frog count. So math.max. Sorry, I need to keep this value above 0. Oh, I'm making a mess of it, sorry. Let's first fill in the value, really. So that's... no. Max frogs. No, this is all bad. Sorry, my Saturday brain is not really up to these ever so tiny challenges of calculating numbers. The maximum number of frogs we can add is obviously max frog count minus present frogs, which we currently don't count. So we should start counting that. I wonder what happens if this is 1 and this is 0. What happens to my clamp? We should check for that. Let's have a integer present frogs here. What we're doing here, we should actually call for present frogs to be 10. In the clear function, we should account for the present frogs being 0. And then here we will go, we can do this more elegantly, I guess. Yeah, this should be more elegantly handled with a while loop. While present frogs is smaller than or equal to, no, smaller than max frog count, will spawn a single frog, which is a new function. No, sorry, this won't work because then we are not calculating how many frogs we're adding. On the other hand, if we do it like this, frogs to add is bigger than 0. We can do it like this. Frogs to add minus. And then we can remove this here. Because now the check is simply embedded within this here. Now the spawn simple frog should be a simple thing, because that should actually, I think, just be this. Public. No, let's not make that one public, because we want to keep a tally of how many there are and shouldn't go beyond anything. And let's say void spawn a single frog. I think that could just be this, right? Seems to work. Let me see. Yeah. Frog here. Spawn post. This is all good. And we can replace this here with a spawn single frog. Singly. Okay. As soon as we are spawning these frogs, we should actually also, after having spawned all that, make time player left equal to time just to be absolutely certain that when we run this again, nothing happens. Okay. So let me double check my logic. We measure the duration that the player has taken to return. Then we use that duration times the spawns per minute times 60. Duration times spawns per minute times 60, because every second, yeah, this shouldn't, spawns per minute should be like this. And let's make that a float to make sure that spawns per minute is a spawns per second. This is now spawns per second times that duration in seconds should deliver an exact number. The downside here obviously is that you want this to be a little random at least. But since we're now, let's see, spawns per minute 10, we're spawning a frog every 6 seconds. This should actually work. Present frogs 10. Spawn single frog should actually increase present frogs this. And then, just to make absolutely sure that we don't spawn more than we're supposed to, we can build in a little sanity check here. If present frogs is larger than or equal to max, what is it, max frog count, then we simply return, and then we can remove this. With the clear should still put it on 0, and this should work. But I've been known to make tiny stupid errors in stuff like this, so I'm not entirely sure. Let's use our QB human and let's see what happens. Exciting day. So at start now nothing spawns, which is a good thing, because that gives all the elements here a chance to settle, the dynamic elements. Now the player enters and has been away for like, well, by now 20 seconds, I guess. So the player enters, but nothing happens. That's a bit sad. And the player leaves, and the player enters. Now stuff happens. Oh, that might be, let's check, because I never call on this function yet. This, by the way, should also be in awake, or let's put it in start. And I forgot to assign the correct functions to this trigger, because it's now still clean spawn frogs and clear, which obviously works. Just that I guess the counter didn't work when I... Oh, I'm already inside the trigger area with my cube human here. So that accounts for them not appearing at first. Okay, this one. I should not clean spawn frogs, but spawn additional frogs. And I should not clear the frogs here. But for now, I want to try what happens if I put start reappearing here. This would mean, by the way, that the frogs that have spawned when I move away will stay there, even if I move away, which is a bit of a resource drag, I guess. I could remove them when I disappear, but we can build that in later. Okay, so I enter and there's only one frog. I leave and that frog stays. Very good. I enter again after 10 seconds or so. And look, there's an additional frog. I leave. I can keep doing this. If I keep doing it like this, then besides the frog starting jumping, it will never count up to 6 seconds to spawn the first frog. So I should leave, wait for like 10 seconds, and enter to find one frog having respawned. Cool. And I leave. Wait for another 6 seconds, and re-enter, and there's another frog. So every 6 seconds exactly a frog spawns. I'm sorry, it jumped. Which is nice. I'll just leave this running for a bit. Speed it up right now. Till now, there should be like 5-6 frogs appearing. Let's test. There we go. And I scare them all away immediately. Because, well, stuff like that happens. Cool. So this actually already works. I will have to tweak the functionality here though. Oh. Okay. And what if I don't agree with this? Oh god. I'm betting that now that Steam restarts, it has lost an... Well, let me check in my Google sometimes. Steam restarts, but my Rift doesn't display. Oh, my Rift displays Steam. Cool. So that was not a problem. Let me check on the time. So that's already like 45 minutes in. I'll stop this video here because I'm getting a bit long-winded, and I'll continue the process in the next one.